Brave bloggers. I've read stories of Scientology parishioners who may choose to go to another location or country, aside from their own, to partake in services for a price that is less expensive due to a more beneficial exchange rate, as an example, as opposed to paying more for the same services offered at their closest office. I'm speaking more about OT levels or other services that are limited to one of the 6, I believe, places where these costly services are limited for delivery, but I suppose it could apply for any service. Can you discuss this? Yeah, you bet I can. This is actually kind of interesting. This is one of those little minutia points of the inner workings of the world of Scientology that really never gets talked about. But when I was over all of the delivery for the Western United States, my post was called the Assistant Technical Aide for West US, or A-Tech Aide. This came up as an issue because in the United States, services, let's say an intensive of auditing at a regular city level Class 5 org, let's say it costs $3,200 American. Well, you go to Flag for that same service and the cost goes up because Flag is a higher level organization. In fact, it goes up at the Sea orgs to a certain, let's say it's $3,200 at your local org, it's $4,000, let's say, at ASHO, and $4,500 at AO, at the advanced organization. And if you go to Flag, and maybe it's $6,000 for the same 12.5 hours of auditing. And then there are services that are only delivered at the Sea orgs, which you can't get at the Class 5 orgs, and so they charge more for those as well. But what was happening was people were going down to Mexico and doing services down there, flying from California or places like Denver or Twin Cities, where they had local Class 5 churches that they could go and do their services at. And this was all pre-clear services. This wasn't the OT levels or the advanced services. And so a person, let's say, had $20,000 to spend on auditing. Well, if they went down to Mexico, those intensives of auditing, those 12.5 hour blocks of auditing were not $3,200 each. Those intensives were $2,000 each once you did the conversion, right? And the reason for that is because there is the prices are set by international management based on a formula Hubbard put together, where I don't remember the exact formula, but it goes something along the lines of an intensive or 12.5 hours of auditing should cost like 2 months worth of an average salary for the area or the country, something like that. So whereas $3,200 in the U.S., equivalent in Mexico would be $2,000 U.S. So, or even less. And so people were actively going down there. Now, this wasn't tons of people. There weren't floods of this. There wasn't word getting around to everybody about this. And not everybody could arrange their life to go down to Mexico for 2, 3, 4 weeks and just get, tons of auditing at that rate. But it was coming up often enough. And the United States churches were complaining to us, like, this is not okay. People can't go off to Mexico to get the same services for less. And I thought, wow, that's off the rails. How could we, as a church be doing that? Shouldn't it be uniform? Well, no, that did not get resolved at all. There was no problem. The international guys didn't have any problem at all with people flying down to Mexico or Venezuela or wherever to do their auditing services for cheap. They said, hey, look, there's no Hubbard policy that says you can't do this. You can't forbid somebody from the United States to fly down to Mexico and pay an org down there for auditing. You just can't, nobody really could find any policy that said that this is, not okay to do. So they did it. And now this also happened with people flying to Australia, like you mentioned in your question. People could pay less because of exchange rates in a foreign country than they would here for the same services at the Sea org level also. So where a person might have to pay, what did I say, $4,500 or something like that for an intensive at the Advanced Organization of Los Angeles, if they went to Australia and did the services in Australia, maybe they'd pay significantly enough less that it would pay for the airfare to go down to Australia and their accommodations, And so they were spending the same amount of money to get their services somewhere else. So yes, this was a thing. Yes, it came across my plate, and nobody really wanted to do anything about it. And that's kind of how that went down.